Good morning, Bridge Dental Podcast listeners. This is Steve Kuza, the host of the Bridge Dental Podcast, and also your resident dentist financial advisor. Hope everyone is doing great today. We got a special episode. We're going all the way to Las Vegas, bright and early in Las Vegas. Pat, how are you doing? Thanks for joining us so early.
Yeah, no problem. 6:30 in the morning. It's not really too bad for me. I typically try to wake up a little bit earlier than that anyways, go to the gym, do a couple of things I got to do before the dental day starts. But thanks for having me on.
Yeah, why not slide in a podcast every now and then, right? So, if for those of you listening, so we have Dr. Patrick Anghel. He's a dentist in Las Vegas. Dr. Pat, what is the name of the dental practice you're running?
Ranch Plaza Dental Group.
So Ranch Plaza Dental Group. So for those of you who know him locally in the Vegas area, he's your dentist. For those of you who know him on Instagram, you know him as Pat the Dentist. And not just the dentist, he's got multiples of disciplines that he's in. And that's what we're going to dive into today. I'm very excited to talk through the business owner mindset of what you've grown, not only on the dentistry side, Pat, but also social media side and the other disciplines that you decided to take on.
Yeah, of course.
I guess as you call it, as a business owner. But let's land the plane. Tell us a little bit about you, ranch level dentistry, right? Did I say
Ranch
that correct?
Plaza Dental.
Yeah.
My vision for this practice has kind of really been to make it into a dental implant center. I purchased the office. The office had been around for, I want to say maybe 11 years before I purchased it. So many different owners in between. And I bought it in July of 2021 after being out in Vegas working as an associate for about 2 years. And I have a current business partner who was the dentist that I was working for, right? But my vision has been to kind of create it as a dental implant center, meaning obviously standalone implants, implant bridges, but more so prosthetic related implant services. So all on fours, overdentures. Personally, I don't do all on fours, but I have surgeons that come into the office. So we've really kind of ramped it up over the past year and a half, I'd say, more so a year, where now we're at the point where we're consistently doing all on fours. People I know are reaching out to me, other dentists, and they're like, how did you set this up? What are you doing? So in the beginning, you're kind of like, you feel like you're not getting anywhere. Like you have this plan set in stone that you want to follow and adhere, but nothing's happening. And then all of a sudden it kind of starts to happen. If you believe in what it is that you're doing, you make the necessary adjustments if things aren't working, and then things kind of start to play out. So it's kind of satisfying to see other people that I know reach out to me to ask my opinion on something that they ultimately want to do. So we're kind of at that point right now. We're bringing on an associate that is graduating this year, actually, in a couple months, and just living the Vegas dream.
Are you originally from Nevada, or where are you originally from?
No, I grew up in Southern California, okay. And so I spent the majority of my life over there, went to undergrad in San Diego, and then went to dental school in Detroit, and here we are in Vegas.
Shout out to all my Detroit buddies. Where did you go to U of D?
I did, yeah.
Okay, yeah, University of Detroit, awesome dental school, right?
Great school, great city. I tell everybody, if it never got cold there, I'd live there for the rest of my life, but that's not the case. So
right. All right, so you end up going to Vegas. So quick question, because you glossed over it like it was like some easy thing. And I think that let's dive into that a little bit. So you bought this practice in July of 21, if I heard that correct.
Yeah.
And it was it just a general dentistry practice? It wasn't an implant dentistry practice. Like it was just, tell me what you bought and what you've now created.
It's with Pacific Dental Services, right? So they have specialties that come in a couple times during the month, right? And obviously the practice is whatever the original vision is of the owner before, right? So there's implants being done, but my thing that I really wanted to make happen was an implant center in the terms of all on fours and overdentures, because everybody can place a single implant. but can you place something that's fully rehabbing somebody's mouth? Right. And that wasn't necessarily the case. That would happen every once in a while. I do a lot of overdentures myself, and that's something that I really pride myself in. So, kind of me bringing that skill set, understanding the nuances of treatment planning and all on four or an overdenture, how to get a patient to understand that, look, this is a very big difference that's going to happen in your life. Why is it that we should have, at the very least, an overdenture versus just a traditional denture? Right. And I think a lot of that was lacking. And that's kind of something that I'm very passionate about. And that's what we've been able to implement. I mean, it wasn't easy. There's so much trial and error for pretty much about the first year and a half that I had the practice. Like, if you're doing one every once in a while, and then all of a sudden things kind of start to click. You have your workflow in terms of getting patients in, workflow in terms of how to get those patients to convert, and then it just kind of starts to happen.
And where did the passion come from? Was it doing the continued education you were doing as a dentist that you just found this niche of, this is the way I want to do it? Or did you have a specific case that inspired you to maybe start to go down that path more?
Man, I think it's just in school, I've always kind of had this passion for implants. Like, not to say that I place implants every single day, but when it comes to all the different procedures that are not necessarily like bread and butter, and what I kind of just truly consider bread and butter to be is just fillings and crowns, right? And basic extractions. I think that's bread and butter. But when it comes to the other stuff, yes, every dentist can do root canals, but I think that's something that you can really kind of focus on and expand upon and specialize, quote unquote, and make yourself be somebody who's an expert in that region for root canals or for cosmetic dentistry or for Invisalign. I think implants kind of falls into that category. And I'm looking at all those other skills, and I'm like, what is really interesting to me? What do I want to specialize in and become known for? And for me, it was implants, and we're doing a lot more cosmetic dentistry work here as well. And so those are kind of my two things that I've really kind of focused on.
And so if we go back and we don't have to dive all the way into your childhood, but if we just think about your path to dentistry, I want to just start there. What inspired you to get into dentistry in the first place?
I think it's the perfect fusion between healthcare and business. And I mean, I spent a lot of time in the dental chair when I was a kid, tons of fillings. I have a couple crowns, a root canal. So I just got really accustomed to that atmosphere. My dentist was really cool, got to know him well. And at the same time, my mom, she's a respiratory therapist. So I kind of got introduced to the doctor side of things, spoke to some of her colleagues that were doctors when I was in high school. And some of my best friends' parents are surgeons, right? And they all kind of said the same thing. My friend that's a dentist is amazing, like living the dream, doesn't work as much as us, didn't have to go to as much school, but knows so much about their profession, changing lives, and is making a lot of money at the same time as well. And I think I was kind of gravitated towards all of that. And obviously listening to a lot of people who have gone down the healthcare side of things and saying how it's not worth it necessarily to go into medicine and to pursue dentistry, I think that played a big role as well.
And so you pursued this, you made the jump, you got to U of D dental school. So you go from San Diego and then you jump out to Detroit. So did you end up back in SoCal? Or did you find kind of your spot straight from?
No, so my plan was not to go back to California because so I was an econ major in undergrad, and I studied that obviously with biology, and kind of seeing the track that California was on and kind of looking at just how easy it would be or how difficult it would be to start up as a new professional, regardless of what it is that you're trying to do in California, with a debt burden, with it being more competitive with the income taxes, with the cost of living,
Mm-hmm.
and just saturation of whatever it is that you're trying to do, to me, it just didn't really make sense. I
Okay.
have family there. So I said, look, if I ever want to go back to California, I have some sort of a tie. Some of my friends are out there. But if I really want to launch my career and really kind of separate myself from my peers in terms of income and skill set, it's got to be somewhere that has no state income tax. And one of the big things is like, let's just assume a dentist is making $100,000 when they come out of school, right? And if you're going to California, you're making 100,000 versus a state like Nevada or Texas, where the income tax is very different. That first year, you're saving anywhere between $8,000 to $10,000 that can be
Right.
used for CE courses or
Per
for a
per
home
per
that you
100
want to
grand,
buy.
by the way. So if you make 200,
Yeah,
yeah,
you
you're
make
saving
200,
20
it
grand
becomes
or 50.
exponential at that
Right.
point, and
Yeah.
all that money uh, can be used for something to grow your skill set as a dentist, or that future business that you want to purchase, or whatever it is, right? And 3 years out, you're looking compared to your peers, right? And that's not even assuming the cost of living and everything else
Sure.
when that gap really starts to become larger, right? So that was my whole look at things at that point in time. Michigan obviously was a place I was looking at because I was going to school there,
Sure.
and Texas.
Okay.
And then I met my current business partner kind of in the very beginning of the last year in school,
Okay.
flew out to visit him in Vegas and what he's doing out here. And I was like, look, this is the spot.
I love that. I love that, and the courage to take that journey, um, to move entirely away from family, etc., and then not go back home, which it's almost like natural. You go back home and let me rebuild, or let me
Yeah.
start new. So I love that, and you seem to have found a mentor, a good partnership relationship to help maybe drive some of that growth. How did you find either your current partner or some of the mentors you had? Were you seeking that out? Were you asking people for, like, hey, I'm graduating dental school, give me feedback, love to coach with you once a week? Like, how did you go about that? Or was this just a
Yeah.
natural thing?
So part of it is natural, but at the same time, you can create something that feels unnatural for you. You can make it seem like it's natural, right? And I think that's what a lot of dentists and especially dental students kind of need to understand is you really have control over the pathway of your life and how that's going to play out. And so I was in ASDA in dental school, and naturally, you're just introduced to a lot more people, a lot more private practice dentists, specialists, corporate dentists, doesn't matter, everybody. And
Hmm.
everybody knows everybody at the end of the day. And so it's kind of putting yourself out there in those types of ways. Join a fraternity, go to those events, join ASDA, go to those events, or you're going to have to do your due diligence on your own. Whatever it is, you got to do that. And
Right.
so essentially, that's what I was doing. I knew a couple people in Pacific Dental Services that I was very close with. And one night we're kind of just hanging out over some drinks, just talking life, nothing to do with dentistry. One of them just kind of, it pops into their head. They're like, oh my God, you got to meet this guy in Vegas. You guys are just so aligned with so many different things that you guys are saying. I got to connect you guys.
Mm.
About a week later, we spoke on the phone. About a month and a half later, I was flying out there to see the office, and then the rest is history.
Wow. No, that's really cool. And what people, it's almost like they see where you're at today. They don't see the full, like, the nitty gritty steps, right? We see like, oh, wow, that must have been easy for you. It's like, no, I've literally flew out there. Probably I had all these conversations. I stressed out. I had pros and cons.
That's
um,
how it is. That's life.
that's life. That is life. And so with, it seems to me though, that you're still pursuing stuff that excites you beyond dentistry. So we talked about, I was just looking through your link tree. You have, it seems like some coaching going on within dentistry. So it seems like you like to lead and coach others. We have how to increase patient care acceptance, dental coaching calls. You have these dentistry Facebook groups and Instagram groups, even weight loss tips, crypto advice, insurance talk. So talk to me about these other, I guess I'd call them passions, but these other pieces that you have to pat the dentist.
Yeah, man. I feel like life gets monotonous, and you got to find things that truly intrigue you and just pursue it, right? And that's always going to be dentistry, but there's so many other things that interest me. And if I can learn about those things, share that knowledge with other people, create a group or whatever, and turn a profit in that process as well, like that to me is amazing. And so a lot of those things have always been kind of interesting to me. With increasing patient care, I think a lot of that kind of goes back to just the whole coaching. I've been very involved in dental school with coaching pre-dental students, and then towards the end of dental school with younger dental students, first and second year, and then graduating, really focusing on dental students to help them get to that next step. And then same thing now. I've been an owner for a while. I've been practicing since 2019. I think I have a lot closer idea to what so many of these new grads are going and these young dentists are going through compared to someone who graduated 15, 20 years ago, because the debt burden is very different. The type of student is very different. The type of environment we're working in is very different. And so I think I have a lot of knowledge to share with these young professionals. And so that's been a big passion of mine, because another big thing that I see is just like what's going on in the economy, right? And it's very frustrating to see how bogged down and how sad and frustrated people are, right? And there was a study years ago that I had read that kind of mentioned the biggest reason why we tend to have problems in our personal lives is because we're not making what we feel we should be making. That's why relationships tend to fall apart, marriages tend to fall apart, because it's income driven at that point. You're not satisfied in your personal life, that trickles into other aspects. And that's the same thing if you're a single person. If you're not making what you feel you need to be making, that affects other things in your life. And I kind of look at that, well, okay, how does that apply to dentistry, right? We got a lot of debt. People say dentists make a lot of money, but if you're paying a lot, if you have expenses that are high and so on and so forth, you're not really taking home a lot, right? So how can we maximize that? Okay, well, one, you're probably not doing the dentistry that you're truly passionate about doing. You're just doing fillings, cleanings, and crowns, right? And what are you going to do, right? Are you going to go into cosmetic dentistry or implants or Invisalign, whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now you learn that skill set, or maybe you're just doing bread and butter, but can you get your patients to convert and to start treatment? Because you can be the best dentist in the world if you can't build some sort of rapport, if you can't get them to start treatment. Doesn't matter if you're the best at placing implants, you're going to have a lousy life. You're not going to be doing dentistry the way that you want to, and you're not going to be making money the way that you thought you would, to go and invest in CE, to go on vacation, to spend on your family and yourself. And that's something that I'm really passionate about, is kind of giving people the tools to capitalize on their own unique situation and to become the best version of themselves.
Well, let's dive into that for a moment. So, and really well said. If you were to look at your personal routine, et cetera, I mean, you talked about at the beginning of this podcast, the way you kind of get started with your day. It sounds like you focus a lot on personal, feeling the right way, then going and doing great dentistry, and then that also is leading to these other areas of your life. Talk to us about, and whether you want to take it back to like how you really got into these routines, or just right now, how you've aligned your day, what habits you built first, second, third, and how that's helped you in dentistry overall.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of said it, like routine. That's the big thing that a lot of people don't really have. If you just create a routine and you stick to that, you're going to outperform 98% of the people walking on the face of this planet, right? Because most people are just kind of flying by the seat of their pants. So pick a time. I don't care what time it is that you wake up, right? If your day starts at noon and you want to wake up at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning, wake up at that time, create a routine and stick to it every single day, right? My day starts a lot earlier. I prefer Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday because my work day starts at 8. I want to be up kind of about 4:45 to 5 in the morning, right? At that point, I'm drinking my water with salt in it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to the gym for about 20, 25 minutes. And then I come back and I have my smoothie, I have my breakfast, the same thing every single day, right? Because I don't want to think about variety and things like that. There's so many other things that I gotta focus on. Then I go to work, right? I get into my car, I get to work, and I start doing the things that I need to do for my side ventures, for my business, and then the dental side of things before the actual dental day begins. And that's like that every single day. And then I do what I need to do at work. And then after that, I focus on the things that I have to do at home. But it's maintaining a routine every single day, whatever yours may be, allows you to kind of to capitalize and to stay curious. I think that's the big thing as well.
So let's hold that thought on the staying curious. I want to come back to that because you mentioned it as like a side comment, but you must, that's how you're wired probably is you're curious. That's what's led you probably to these other topics in life. But going back to the routine real quick, do you, I mean, this was also probably trial and error, right? You know, you tried different things. You tried doing this on Mondays and Tuesdays and that on Wednesdays. And now you're in your specific routine now, but maybe that'll adjust in the future. So I'm assuming there was trial and error with your routine, right?
Yeah. And I mean, at one point there was no routine, right? And I mean, what are we, the year 2024? I want to say in 2022, kind of around March, February, March, I was really just kind of unsatisfied with the way I looked. I was 20, almost 25 pounds heavier than I am today.
Wow.
I remember I went to Yosemite with a friend and they took like a shirtless picture of me. And I look at myself and I'm just like, God damn, I got to make some changes. Right. And so that's kind of when I really started to focus on the health side of things. Like
Sure.
my weight has kind of fluctuated up and down prior to that. But then I really kind of said, look, I got to get diet under control. I got to get things under control because if you want to be the best version of yourself, you have to be the healthiest version of yourself as well. Your practice is going to thrive, your relationships are going to thrive, and everything else following that. And that's when I think I kind of really created the routine that I have where I'm going to try to go to the gym 2 times a day, right? 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes and at night. You combine that together, that's 40, 45 minutes right there, right? But what I said was the most important one is go to the gym in the morning because if something comes up in the afternoon, at least I got that workout out of the way in the morning and I can still feel good about myself. Right. So a lot of trial and error like that, but I think the diet in particular and
What you're
finding
eating.
the right diet is the most important thing because even if you don't go to the gym, right? Because there are times where you may not go for a week or whatever, and for whatever reason, but if your diet's on point, you're not going to gain weight. You're still going to feel good. You're not going to feel sleepy and sluggish. And if you get that aspect on point, it's easier to wake up. You're going to sleep a lot better. You're going to have a lot more energy throughout the day. And it makes everything else a lot easier for you.
Mm. And I love that. In starting with giving you the energy, right?
Exactly.
The food you're eating and what you drink in the morning, all that is related. And in the gym is the best. The studies that I've seen is that the exercise is the best version of antidepressant reducing anxiety medication out there. It's just exercise, right? It could be
It really
walking
is.
in the morning, right? And so going to the curious part of this now, you sound to me like you're someone who I want to use a different word, who's super resourceful. You're curious and then you go seek. You start to look for these different ways to improve yourself. So you sound level-headed. You sound like you know what you want. You feel like, you have a good routine in place. I'm sure we all have everything in between there, but what are some of the resources, whether it was a book, a website, podcast, pieces that help you kind of start to put some of this stuff together?
I think the most important things were 2 books that I read in particular was How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Mm,
I
great book.
think, yeah, that played a very important role in my life. And I think the big reason why is because you learn how to truly have a genuine conversation with people. And I think what comes about having genuine conversations with people is you learn about their passions, right? Which most of the time is very different than yours. And lots of times that may pique some sort of an interest or curiosity in you about something that they said, whatever it may be. And now that kind of opens the door for you to learn a little bit about that topic, right? Whether it's finance or something different in medicine or whatever it may be. And now you can kind of pursue a passion in that way if it interests you enough. But it kind of opens the door to seeing how other people think and other ideas, right? So you have that. But at the same time, it's a very important sales book. I think another thing that was very important for me was Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I think that book is old as can be, but it really kind of opens your eyes to how money works, how business works, and why we are where we are today as a society because of that. And I think when you truly start to understand money, everything else starts to make a lot more sense in the world around you. Like when you're watching the news or you're reading a piece of information, you can see past the surface level that they're trying to brainwash you with. You can kind of see the mechanics working on the underside of things. And I think when you can see that, that's when your mind really starts to expand. And now you can go down any other pathway that you may have some sort of an interest in. You look at things a lot more differently at that point. And that's part of the reason how I went down into Bitcoin and all the other things related to cryptocurrency, I think was understanding money and truly what's going on with that and finances and the economy.
Right. Which I love. I love both of those books, by the way. If you just read those two books only, it's setting yourself up pretty well.
I agree.
And so I love that. And I think the piece that you just brought up, and you're an economics major, so you did that in college as well. But the economics of dentistry are important. The economics both on buying a practice, what your insurance-based practices, fee-based practices, cosmetic care, increasing revenue, whatever it is. There's so much economics to dentistry. Understanding how money works, profit loss, and these different concepts. Forget about it, because really the dentistry practice, like Ranch Plaza, is an equity, right? It's a business. You're investing in it just the same. And I don't know if you would agree with this. The further you understand economics in a simple form, even by simply reading a book like Rich Dad Poor Dad, the more prepared you're going to be for understanding how money works. Would you agree with that as in the business sense as well?
I agree. I mean, it gives you a good basic understanding of how things operate, and you're not going in completely blind. But at the end of the day, it's like what you think you know is very different until you start doing it. And like, I remember my first month of practice, I'm just like, whoa, what in the world is going on? Like everything is so different than I thought it would be. And I think one of the important things was I ran like some side businesses in the past in like undergrad, and I kind of understood that whole aspect of people management and just money coming in, money going out, and payroll and stuff like that. So I think like finding a mentor or doing something like that before you open your true passion of whatever it's going to be is going to help you out a lot more.
The iterations, you just got to do it, man. As much as you think you know what you're walking into, just got to iterate, get it going.
You got to jump in the pool.
You got to jump in there, try the routines, own the practice. And especially when you're in practice, it's like, oh my God, here we go. All right, what's the process? And that's probably how you ended up from the practice sense where you are today, is you were willing to just iterate. Like, it's not perfect, but let's go. Let's drive this niche, right?
No, that's a perfect point that you bring up. It's not perfect, right? I feel like people have so much fear and they get like stuck to do anything because they have fear of judgment and fear of not being perfect, right? Sure. No one's perfect. At the end of the day, everyone more or less is kind of flying by the seat of their pants to a certain extent. Right. Some are just a little bit more control than others, have a little bit better of a game plan, but we're all kind of walking through life not knowing fully what's going to come next, how our ideas are going to play out. And I think a lot of people, if they can put that block and just kind of uh, push that fear out of their mind, they become a lot more successful than those who may have the same passions, who may potentially have the same skill set, but they're just stuck by anxiety and by fear, which prevents them from trying new things.
And I'll make a connection on this. And you're pretty popular on all the social media platforms. And if you guys don't know him, look him up, Pat the Dentist, and we'll get you all your handles and stuff too. But as you scroll across and you get the influencer who makes a profound statement, right? We all get the quotes across the screen with the music that drives emotion. And anyway, and then you're like, oh, how come I don't live my life that way? That one profound statement. The truth is, let's just say that it's a legitimate influencer, a legitimate person who went through something, and they're coming out saying, hey, this is the way it should be. They iterated. It was trials and tribulations. They failed many times. You don't just end up at this, like, I've made every right decision. No, a lot of them are like, look, I had $20 in my bank account and I was down to my last dollar and finally decided I got to do this. And it was a journey over 10 years. And so I think the point that you and I are both making is it's okay. It's like, just, you got to start today and then try again tomorrow and try again tomorrow. And next thing you know, you'll wake up with this beautiful thing.
I mean, failure at the end of the day is just an opportunity. It's another opportunity. It's a great lesson, because why is it that you failed if you can look at that exact moment and see the things that led up to it, and you tweak those and you can really dissect it and see, okay, maybe if I would have done X, Y, and Z different, it wouldn't have turned out this way. It would have turned out how I envisioned it or closer to that. And then if you can implement those things going forward into the future, that's the greatest learning lesson ever, because now you're excited the next time that opportunity arises, and you do things differently based off what you learned from that failure, and you see it start to play out as a success now. That's beautiful. Right. And too many people, they look at failure as, I'm giving up, I'm done. You got to look at it as a learning opportunity. And when you do, it's a game changer.
Right. Yeah. I think the statement is, I just got a master's degree and said whatever you failed in, right? It's like, it cost me 10 grand, that mistake, but I guess I got a master's lesson in that. So
it's so true, though. That is so true. And a lot of people don't look at it like that.
Well, I want to understand from you, and I appreciate this sentiment, because this is great. Because look, you're 3 years into ownership. You're talking like a 25-year veteran right now. So I love this. But and what is next for you, Pat the Dentist? Obviously, continuing to drive growth in your practice potentially. But I'm curious from your end, what's the vision say? What does Pat say? What's next for you?
Obviously, grow the practice, continue to do things on that side. But I think for me, I have a big passion with marketing in general. Just because of the whole social media side of things, I've really built something to funnel patients into my office, which has allowed me to do more implants in my specialists, more cosmetic dentistry. And so I think I've really kind of not perfected that, but I've gotten a lot better at that. And I want to share that with other people, implement that into other practices, and kind of package that for them so they can start to do those types of things as well. But I think really kind of taking advantage of the emerging digital space, what's going on with all these different blockchains and Web3, how healthcare, dentistry in particular, and just other things that I'm interested in are really just transitioning into this new world. And I think we're so early, like we're literally at the year 1998 when it comes to the internet.
Right.
And so many people were like, wow, if I would have just invested in Google at that point in time, or Amazon or whatever, I'd be rich and retired, right? And I think we're at that point. And I think I have a lot better understanding than most people. And I'm very passionate about that type of stuff. And I think it's really embedding myself, learning as much as I can about that, and then kind of just starting to see like where the road kind of takes me in that world, kind of based off healthcare and dentistry.
And for those of you listening and don't know Web3, you want to get curious and go down a wormhole, go search Web3 or check in on Pat the Dentist. But the point of it, and what's interesting about it, and we're talking about blockchain, just high, very, very, very high level, but the integration now in every industry, and obviously the integration in healthcare and dentistry, there will be an integration there. So it's good to start to learn through that stuff, and start to get on a path of at least basic understanding.
Yeah.
And how that could impact your role, right?
I mean, it's the future. And it's like, I was too young in 1998 and 2000 to say, hey, mom, dad, go ahead and buy some stock in this. Or like, even when the housing market crashed in 2008, like, dude, I was in high school. Like, I couldn't buy a home or anything like that. Right. But now I'm at the point where like this whole shift in technology and finance and generational shift is all happening at the exact same moment in time, when I'm hitting my stride in terms of income and skill level, where it's like, if I don't capitalize on this, this is not going to happen for another 20 years again. And at that point, I'm going to be 50. It's going to be a lot harder to do those types of things. And so I think people kind of have to step outside of their own little bubble and just look at what's going on in the world around them. And then people don't really get lucky, right? People are curious. They develop skill sets. They learn things. They meet the right people. And then something happens in the world, or they're in the right place at the right time, but they capitalize by being in that moment with all the other stuff that they have built themselves. And that's what people kind of perceive as luck, right? I don't believe that to be true. I don't think people get lucky. People take advantage of a moment with the skills they have.
I love that. And I actually think that's a perfect way to finish up our podcast, is with what you just said, and being prepared, being able to execute, taking the risk, and not catastrophic risk. We're talking taking some calculated risk, like you said, being in the moment with your skill set. Love that. Pat the Dentist, how do people get in touch with you? You have a lot of angles to you. There's a lot of curiosity on my end. We could probably run another 45 minutes if we needed to. But how do people get in touch with you to learn more about you and kind of learn about, maybe even get some coaching from you in general?
Yeah, so Instagram is definitely the easiest way. Okay. Go to my Instagram, pat.the.dentist. And I have a link tree there that will send you to my Twitter, to Facebook, to coaching, to my dental office, and everything else in between. So I think that's kind of the best one. But I'm on all the social media channels except TikTok, even LinkedIn. Yeah. So.
Okay. And well, we appreciate you coming on. Any final parting words of wisdom? I don't know if we can get any better than the last statement you made.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for having me on. Last thing I can say is buy Bitcoin.
Okay. I appreciate that. All right. For all, thanks, Pat. I appreciate your insight today. We had some fun with you today, and we're looking forward to watching your journey and see you continue to grow. For those of you listening, Bridge Dental Podcast listeners, thank you to Pat the Dentist. We'll put his contact info, link tree, etc. in the show notes. So signing off from Detroit, this is Steve Kuza, your host. And for all the Bridge Dental Podcast listeners, we'll talk to you soon.